Hey guys, Martinkin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so yesterday, along with the information about the Part 2 LR being the AGL Ultima Gohan, we did also get the announcement of 5 EZA'S. I mentioned in yesterday's video that I was away yesterday morning, so I did miss the initial posts. I made a video about Gohan, the LR details, as soon as I got home. And then it wasn't until I was streaming later in the evening on my second channel. Do go check that out. We just finished doing all of The Last of Us, which I'd never played before, and we're going on to Last of Us 2. But someone mentioned in that stream, someone asked me if I was excited for Int Hercule's EZA. And yeah, I hadn't actually seen the information posted, so I wanted to make this video. I know some of you guys will obviously have seen the details for these EZAs already, but these are coming out tomorrow morning at the same time as the release of the Gohan banner, and these are all sub EZAs, so you are going to be able to farm their medals ahead of time. And we'll talk about at the end of the video which medals you need so that you can go ahead and get those farmed up and be ready for these to drop, and you'll be able to EZA all the characters straight away. So first off, we have the Tech Trunks. So he gets a Kamehameha leader skill for 3 key 120, or Tech and physical types 3 key 90%. His super attack effect is greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn, does supreme damage to the enemy, and raise allies attack by 40% for 1 turn. So that is pretty good. We got attack and defense 180%, damage reduction of 50%. Then we get an additional attack 120, an additional damage reduction of 30% when performing a super if there's an ally whose name includes Goten or Krillin attacking in the same turn. So this is basically the way this guy has always worked, and the Goten was similar. They get some extra damage reduction on super, but he's already starting off at 50%, which is pretty good. And then post super, he's going to have 80% damage reduction after greatly raising defense on super. So that's really, really good. Kamehameha allies 1 key, 50% attack, and chance to crit 20% as the first attacker in the turn. Or Kamehameha allies 2 key, 70% attack, and 30% crit as the second attacker in the turn. So he's definitely better in slot 2, gives more support, has the chance to super attack first. And then he gets an additional attack 120, high chance to crit when performing a super, and key +3 as the third attacker in the turn. So if he's the third attacker, he doesn't give any support, but he gets a lot of extra damage and a chance to crit, as well as the extra key, which means pretty much going to be auto supering. So he could be pretty good on the BUU Saga team as like a third slot floating unit. If there's no Goten or Krillin, of course, on the rotation, he's not going to be getting the extra damage reduction, but even post super with 50% damage reduction, he'll still be pretty good, especially at tanking normals. So he seems pretty solid. Goten, I would imagine, is going to be very similar, but if we look at Goten, he gets the same leader skill except it's int and physical types. Greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn. Yep, so it's exactly the same. Has the raise allies attack by 40% for 1 turn as well. So the interesting thing is, if you have Goten or Trunks in slot 1 and the other one in slot 2, the unit in slot 3 is going to be getting 80% extra attack, which is certainly quite interesting. So his passive is attack and defense 180, damage reduction 50%, additional attack 120, damage reduction 30%. Yep, same as Trunks basically, except it's Trunks instead of Goten in the passive. Kamehameha allies, yeah, I mean, they just have the exact same kit, don't they? So I mean, that is good. They are basically the exact same unit. So a rotation with these guys, I guess their biggest problem is going to be what their start of turn defense is, because depending on what it is, start of turn defense, even with 50% damage reduction, isn't going to be enough to be eating like big super attacks and stuff, right? So you're going to want Goten and Trunks together, ideally, but neither of them are going to be super good in slot 1 in like the most difficult content for eating supers. If they have type advantage, then potentially, because of course 50% damage reduction start of turn is still very good. But I imagine start of turn, even linked together, they're not going to be any higher than, let's say, 300k defense at a push, because they've only got 180% stats. They are giving support, I guess, as well, but only attack. So yeah, they're not going to be good for eating slot 1 supers, but once they have super attacked, if there's a Goten or Trunks on the rotation for either of them, they will actually be very, very good at taking hits, because 80% damage reduction is a pretty huge amount, right? Like you take, even let's say like a 3 million damage super attack, once you take off 80% from that, you're looking at 600k. So if their defense post super is, even let's say after supering they get up to, let's say it's only 400k, it means they're only taking 200k damage from a 3 million damage super. So 80% damage reduction is obviously very, very good. So yeah, they seem like they could be interesting. The only big issue is going to be, are you really going to want to run either of them in slot 1? So and if you have them both floating, then obviously they're not going to be on the same turn as each other. So it'll be interesting. We'll obviously try and make it work. When I do the showcase, I'll probably do them both together. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. So then we have Int Hercule. So shout out to the boy Ultimate Warzone, one of my channel members and regulars who goes on about this unit constantly. We're still using him in difficult content even before his EZA, because if you get the right setups, he could still be good. Of course, the funny thing is, whenever we were doing challenge runs in the streams and stuff like that, I would never get actual good luck with him and always get killed, but he could still work in difficult content, so him getting an EZA is actually quite cool. He has a super types lead of 3 key and attack and defense 110%, which is, has there been a 110% leader before? That's interesting. Super attack is greatly raised attack and defense for 1 turn, supreme damage, high chance to stun, 50% chance of super attack transforming and TN appearing, and power will be supremely boosted for 5 turns. So I don't know what supremely boosted means, but it's basically an attack raise for 5 turns. That's interesting. So I've given him a little bit of extra damage. And then we have his passive Champion's Luck. So attack and defense 150 when performing a super, high chance to dodge, and if HP is 50% or more, an additional chance to dodge plus 10%. Damage reduction of 50 to 90, the less HP, the less damage received. So as always, the lower your HP, the more damage reduction he has. Additional attack and defense 50%, and all enemies attack and defense minus 10% per BUU Saga ally attacking in the same turn, self-excluded. So if you have 2 other BUU Saga allies, he's getting an additional 100% attack and defense and debuffing the enemy by 20%. So if the enemy can actually be debuffed, then obviously that's very useful. I mean, he's got 50%, so if you're starting the turn at 50% or more HP, you have a 60% chance to dodge, and then he's got damage reduction of at least 50%, while greatly raising defense on super. So he certainly seems like he could be a very good option. If you're starting on low HP, he'll be good even in slot 1. So yeah, seems like a very solid EZA. Like I say, Hercule has been a unit that was still relatively usable if you had the right setups. So this EZA feels like he definitely could be good. He's kind of like the Int 16, but for the BUU Saga team, I guess, right? With the right turns and the right like start of turn HP, stuff like that, he's going to be pretty solid. So that seems good. Then we have the STR Fat Boo. I can't believe this guy finally getting an EZA. I think he's the only one of these units getting an EZA that I'd forgotten to link level ahead of time, so I need to work on that today. By the time this video goes up, I'll already be doing some of the link leveling, but still, he goes up to STR types 3 key and 100%, so really realistically a leader skill that's only really useful for something like Battlefield, but that's fine. He greatly raises attack and raises defense for 1 turn, does supreme damage to all enemies, and has a 30% chance to stun. So yeah, this guy's always been an AoE unit. He's been useful back in the day as a TUR for the World Tournament. Obviously nowadays we prioritize either LRs for team cost or units like Piccolo, Junior, or even STR Piccolo. But this guy could still be useful if you're lacking other World Tournament characters to use. Be interesting to see, of course, what he's like in the normal events. I mean, the Barbady's Forces Red Zone stage, whilst it's not particularly difficult, does have multiple enemies, so he'll be good there. He changes Int Key Spheres to STR Key Spheres and gets attack and defense 150% start of turn. Orb changes that change a specific type of orb are always really good because it somewhat allows you to set up for them for the next turn. So that's really good. He gets 50% attack and defense per STR key sphere obtained. Launches an additional super attack with 5 or more key spheres. That's really good because he is raising defense on super and he's an orb changer. He's a nuking style unit, so you want to pick up as many orbs as possible anyway. So that's good. When there's another Majin Buu Saga ally attacking in the same turn, damage reduction 30%. That's good. And then additional damage reduction of 3% per STR key sphere starting from the 4th key sphere, with 3 or more orbs obtained. So, I mean, that means if you're getting a good orb changer of him, and let's say you pick up like 10 STR orbs, it starts from the 4th one, so that's going to be 6 orbs, which is, what, another 18%, so he's going to have 48% damage reduction. He'll get a double super because you got 5 orbs, So he's getting a double defense raise. So he seems like he could actually be quite good. The BUU Saga team needed a couple of extra units that could go there. And with this guy, he shares the same name as the Int BUU. But Int BUU, especially after he's gotten the revive and you've gotten some stacks with him, he's going to be a unit that you're using in slot 1. And this guy can be a unit that goes in slot 2. The BUU Saga team links really well, so depending on how the orbs change, you can very often only need to pick up one orb with the units in slot 1 and 2, which means even if this guy's in slot 3, you can still save the massive like cluster of STR orbs for him. So he certainly seems very, very good. Could certainly be strong. The new red zone stage versus Buhan has a couple of physical stages and doesn't have an AGL stage, so he certainly could be very good there, even though there is only a single enemy. So yeah, he seems like he could be pretty solid as well. And then the last one is the physical BUU tanks. Now, I've been waiting for this guy to get an EZA for a long time. I always thought he was kind of cool. Unfortunately, the only thing I'd heard about these EZAs, because this is genuinely my first time reading their kits, the only thing I've heard about them realistically is that this guy's not very good, which is disappointing, but we'll see. Physical types 3 key, 100% attack and defense. Greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn on super, supreme damage, and seals. So I mean, it's a decent enough super attack effect, right? Greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn. Then his passive is superclass enemies, attack 30% and defense 60% minus. That's pretty decent for a debuff. The 30% attack passive debuff is really good for enemies that can actually be attack lowered. He gets 1 key, that's random, and attack and defense 100%. Additional attack and defense 150% when performing a super. Then we get an additional 2 key, attack and defense 100%, and 30% damage reduction when all allies attacking in the same turn are Majin BUU Saga characters. And then he gets a guaranteed crit when the enemy is in attack down or defense down. I mean, that doesn't seem too bad. I mean, remember that BUU tanks, this guy especially, has always been, funnily enough, very similar to Gotenks units. Like the old physical Gotenks, right? There's this whole like getting attack and defense on super, sealing, which I mean, it's a cool touch, right? Because it's BUU after having absorbed Gotenks, but that doesn't seem too bad. I mean, start of turn attack and defense won't be great because he only gets 100%, but then he gets 150% on super, which is like a multiplicative buff, right? So if he's got, let's say, 200k defense at start of turn, then he's getting 300k defense when he supers, and he's getting a 50% raise from his actual super attack effect, which I believe is just from the start of turn defense, but that's still another 100k. So if he was at 200k start of turn, he goes up to 600k defense and then has 30% damage reduction. Now that's not crazy when it comes to like, is a unit a really strong defensive unit or not, but I mean 600k defense and 30% damage reduction is still good. He'll be eating all normals in the game, at least on global. And then when it comes to like STR Blue Gogeta, who a lot of people consider one of the hardest bosses, he's got type disadvantage against him, but he lowers attack by 30% with his passive, and that guy can be attack lowered. So if you've hit him with some attack lowers from some other units, and then this guy's passively debuffing him by 30% and getting a guaranteed crit against him because he's got his attack lowered. So he seems like he could be interesting. If you get a double super with him as well, that's another greatly raise on his attack and defense. So he certainly doesn't seem anything too crazy. When it comes to the best version of like the Int BUU, like BUU team, this guy probably doesn't make the like, you know, the top 6 must run units, but he doesn't seem as bad as some people made out. I feel like he potentially is the worst one out of all of them. I guess we need to playtest this guy and see how good he can be. But yeah, he doesn't seem completely awful. And then if we go ahead and look at this, Truth posted this tweet earlier with the details. So if you want to pre-farm the medals now by going into the Extreme Z battles, Goten and Trunks need the Int Gotenks EZA medals. So you do need to farm with all of these guys. It's 12 bronze, 20 silver, 12 gold, and then 12 rainbow. So obviously for the Int Gotenks ones, you're going to need 24 bronze, gold, and rainbow, and then 40 silver. It does mean replaying a bunch of the stages a whole load of times, and it costs stamina, which is super annoying, but obviously at least you can have these medals all ready to go, and then once the EZAs come out tomorrow, they go live when the Gohan banner comes out, you'll be able to just EZA them all straight away. Now unfortunately they are sub EZAs, so you don't get any, because there's no Extreme Z battle event, we're not getting free Kais, which means you do have to use your own resources that you already have in order to get them up to SA 15. But yeah, Goten and Trunks need Int Gotenks EZA medals, STR Fat BUU and Int Hercule need STR Super BUU medals, so you'll you'll need, again, 24, 40, and 24, 24. And then physical Gotenks, physical Butenks needs Int Buuhan medals. So it's actually only 3 sets of medals. Int Gotenks, STR Super Buu, and then Int Buuhan. So obviously if you've got nothing else to do in the game for today, I would say go ahead and pre-farm those medals, especially if you've got stamina and you've got nothing else to do with it for today, because otherwise you've just got to do it tomorrow, and you've obviously got, you know, if you don't want to have to refresh stamina or anything, you might as well use the stamina that you've got for today. Get a bunch of these farmed up, or even just, you know, you don't have to necessarily do all of them, but if you like the Buu team, you might want to get STR Buu done. You might want to get Goten and Trunks done, and then just have them, like, those medals ready. But yeah, I would say if you don't have much to do today with your stamina, do go ahead and get those pre-farmed. You could also pre-farm the Gohan medals. I will be doing the summon or skip video a little bit later for him, so we'll be talking about him and the banner and stuff like that. So I will talk about the medals you need to farm for him in that video as well. So let me know what you guys think of the 5 EZA'S. If you are going to pre-farm them, I would say go ahead, do that. Let me know if you are planning to do so. I've got a couple of these guys with spare SA5 copies ready to get them straight to SA15, and I do have a bunch of dozing guys, so hopefully those will come in clutch with the RNG for me. But let me know what you guys think of these EZA'S. Which one's your favourite? Which one do you think is the worst? Yeah, let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.